Hey guys, welcome back to another segment of A2D, Agree to Disagree. I'm Michael. As always, I'm here with Brian. Today we are getting into kind of our final stages of our pre-mock segments. This is going to be sleepers and busts. So these are a lot of the guys that you may or may not know about that are going deep. They have a deep ADP ranking, but these are guys that could potentially win your league, and then guys that have a high ADP that you should kind of avoid and or drop and wait and maybe take a flyer late in rounds. BT, I know we've done a lot of our segments already, and we've talked about a lot of these guys, but right off the bat, man, sleepers, getting to sleepers, who would be probably your number one guy that you see going late in the mocks that you've been doing? Who's the number one guy that you would probably target late that you would say is a league winner?
It's hard for me to. I don't even have these guys numbered for me. These are late round guys. These are probably 10 round plus guys for me. Like these aren't guys actually I haven't spent a lot of time talking about our rankings or the top guys. These are the guys that can potentially win you leagues, like you were saying, towards the back end of the draft that or might not even get drafted.
Yeah.
So for me, I know this guy who's getting some preseason hype right now. He's a rookie, Treylon Burks, the wide receiver from the Tennessee Titans. Not a lot of people know about him. AJ Brown is gone. Julio, who didn't really do much there anyway, is gone. Robert Woods is coming back from ACL. This kid's big, man. He's got some AJ Brown features to him, and it sounds like he's going to be the number one target in that passing game. So for me, value wise, that's what we're talking about. ADP. I've done a few mocks now, and honestly, most people are auto pick by that time because he's not even on the draft boards. I don't even see him, but he's going to be a guy that if you don't draft him, you're going to be getting him off waivers within the first few weeks of the season.
Yeah. And a couple years ago, like 2 years ago, man, I got Justin Jefferson off of waivers. I mean, a lot of these dynamic rookies are not going in drafts, and I think a lot of people want to see how they adjust to their team before they draft them. With guys like this, you don't have to. The volume's going to be there. You're right about Robert Woods. Like he's in a new system. He's coming off a major injury. And Treylon Burks might be their number one receiver. Behind Derrick Henry, I mean, they really don't have very many offensive weapons. So this guy might get volume right off the bat. And like you said, like in the mocks that I've been seeing, every once in a while you see him fly off the board late, but he's not. His ADP is so low. The risk is so low. I mean, you can definitely use a late pick. My number one, I've been talking about this guy a lot. I think that he's going to bring a lot of volume in his office is James Cook. Now, I've talked about this guy a lot. He is my top sleeper. I have him pretty high even on my running back rankings. Don't know how much of a sleeper he is anymore because I mean a lot of different sites are talking about this kid, but he is somebody that's going to get a lot of third down work, especially in a PPR format. He's going to get a lot of receptions, a lot of work. The only thing that I could see that might hinder him is down by the goal line. They seem to pass a lot, and Josh Allen likes to take the ball in his own hands a lot. But if he can get any kind of opportunity near the goal line, I think James Cook, man, could really be, I mean, even like top 10, not top 10, top 15, top 20 running back. Almost assume like the Kareem Hunt role in Buffalo.
Right. For me, yeah, him and Brees Hall are the two top rookie running backs, and I don't know how much of a sleeper they are. People are aware of the rookie. We saw Najee Harris as a rookie. Running backs normally produce right away, so you can expect that from him. Another sleeper for me, I'm going to go with another rookie. His name is Alec Pierce, the wide receiver on the Indianapolis Colts. Second round draft pick, another rookie, so that's why people don't know about him. Out of Cincinnati, he got a lot of comparisons to Jordy Nelson coming out. He's a big kid. He can make plays downfield. He's a big white dude. That's probably why he got compared to Jordy. And I was actually thinking, like, Packers, you need to grab this guy. As soon as I was hearing that, I'm like, dude, because they needed somebody. They ended up going with Christian Watson instead. But this dude, Alec Pierce, man, I got a feeling I saw an article and it got me kind of hyped up about him that he's going to have over 1,000 yards, double-digit touchdowns. Like, this kid has been balling in training camp. So he's got the frame. And then I talked about Michael Pittman, he's my main like breakout player. This is a sleeper right here on the other side. This guy, I think he's going to be Matt Ryan's second favorite target, and coverage is going to roll towards Pittman. So he's going to get plenty of opportunity one-on-one to make plays, and he's the guy that you might not draft, but he's a guy you could probably get off waivers and keep an eye out for him.
Yeah, you bring up Indy's offense, man. I'm really excited to see kind of what Matt Ryan brings to that offense, because not saying that he's huge upgrade over Carson Wentz, but he's definitely a better quarterback. Like he's more explosive, I would guess, or I would think, for that offense. And other than Michael Pittman, I don't know. I think they even had a receiver just go down, and then the Jonathan Taylor aspect of it. So finding a number 2 receiver there, I mean, that's a name I don't even have on my radar. So if you find that one, dude, I'm going to give you a huge props at the end of the year.
Yes, sir.
But that's a perfect segue to my number 2 sleeper, and it's another Pierce. It's Damion Pierce from Houston. Now, Marlon Mack is kind of projected to be the starter there from day one. They still have Rex Burkhead there in the mix, but the feeling I'm getting out of camp is Pierce is gonna eventually take over that number 1 role at some point in the season. He has definitely been the most productive. And Marlon Mack and Rex Burkhead, I mean, we know what you're getting with them. I mean, Marlon Mack had a couple good years in Indy. Obviously lost his job after injury and after they drafted Jonathan Taylor. But down there in Houston, I mean, they're looking for an identity down there. And I think if you were to find a guy that you can have a 3-down back and build your offense around, Damian Pierce out of the 3 is definitely going to be the one out of those guys. And, people forget about Houston, but it's still an offense. There's still gonna be a lot of volume. And I mentioned this in a podcast before. I think he can kind of assume that James Robinson role, to where he kind of comes out of nowhere. He has like this huge volume influx, and not going to say he's going to finish top 5, because I really highly doubt that. But he's going to kind of assume that, came out of nowhere and be your running back 2 for the year, and you can be okay with it.
You beat me to it, man. That's exactly where I was going to go with him, is the James Robinson role. And I'm going to get to James Robinson in a little bit, actually. He's going to be on the other side of this list. But yeah, I agree with you. I think the volume alone is why he's going to get there. You brought up the other 2 running backs. You know what you're going to get with them. And the Texans are young. They want to see what they got with the young guys, and that's what they're going to do. So I expect Pierce to get 20 to 30 touches a game. Like, the volume is going to be there for him for sure. Just to keep rolling with our sleepers, my next one let's see here, Miko Hardman. I got him on my list. Sky Moore and Juju are getting a lot of hype, but who's the most like Tyreek Hill on that team? It's Miko Hardman, more than likely, dude. He's a screen guy. He runs deep. He's electric, man. He got overshadowed by Tyreek, but a big play guy in that offense. They got Juju as a chain mover. Travis Kelce is a chain mover. Who's a guy that could really just burn, and that's Miko Hardman or maybe Sky Moore. You could almost put / Sky Moore on here for me, but I kind of have a feeling Miko Hardman, he's got some swag, man, and he's been there for a while. I think he hasn't got paid, obviously, and doesn't deserve it yet, but he might be trying to get that money right now. And I think Miko Hardman is a guy who is in that offense, man. He's in offense with Pat Mahomes. They're going to be in some shootouts. So I think he's going to have some games where he's going to have 20-plus points. He's not a guy. He's a guy like you get late and you maybe spot start here and there depending on matchups. He's not a guy you go every week, though. He's going to have some duds, but he's going to have some games, dude, where he's going to have some big ones. So he's got an upside.
Yeah, in that offense, Travis Kelce's obviously going late first, high second, which I still think is too high for a tight end. I don't care what kind of caliber it is, but he's obviously the guy in Kansas City. I think even with Tyreek, I still think Travis Kelce was Patrick Mahomes' guy. But you're right. I mean, it's going to be interesting. I've been hearing a lot about Juju over the last couple weeks, maybe last 2 or 3 weeks,
and that's why I didn't put and if you look at the mocks, dude, and the ADPs. People are aware of him. They think that he's going to have a little resurgence, and everyone's on that kind of. And to me, the possession guy is Kelce. That's still going to be the bread and butter. when and they're kind of similar. So
Yeah, I know, but what I've been hearing a lot of, they have rapport, they have chemistry. Patrick Mahomes is going to be able to throw at anybody, so how that offense under Andy Reid is going to perform, you're right. You're trying to find who's going to plug into that Tyreek spot. We've talked about Miko Hardman, after that Tyreek trade was made, Miko Hardman's name came up, before they even drafted Sky Moore. We started talking about Miko Hardman and how he could possibly fit into that role. Now, is he as talented as Tyreek? I don't believe he is, but the volume in that, if he does assume that role, could really jump up his value. Absolutely. And he's not even being drafted. If he's being drafted like as a late round flyer. And then if it doesn't work out, it doesn't matter. I honestly think Sky Moore is going to be the wide receiver one in Kansas City. That's my personal opinion about him. And then Miko could possibly get those screens. I don't really see him as a really deadly deep threat, but I do think that he's going to get a lot of, especially in a PPR, he could get a lot of those screens, a lot of those short passes, a lot of those dump offs, and then make something out of nothing.
Mahomes, though, he wants to gun it. He wants to unleash that thing, some bombs, and someone's got to be on the receiving end of some of those. And you just hit it. It could be Sky Moore, or to me, it's going to be Hardman. It's going to be one of those two. I feel.
Yeah, I have Sky Moore a little bit higher on my list, only because I think that he's going to assume that number one receiver role. But yeah, you're right about Miko. If he's the one that plants into that Tyreek role, which they might have a different offense altogether. We don't know. I mean, they have an entire new, basically an entire new offense. So they might switch it around. They might go to a more possession type offense. But if they're still looking to run and gun, dude, I mean, Miko is fast.
He's a guy you design plays for, like kind of like they did for Tyreek.
So. Yeah. But he's almost like an A to B type guy. Like Tyreek had this thing to where he would just kind of run around and get open. I don't know if Miko's that kind of guy, but he could be. I mean, he hasn't had to have that role. So again, if he assumes that role, then that's somebody that we're talking about ADP and possibility of him taking a Tyreek role in the late rounds. You're getting a steal. So
it's worth a shot. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm going to kind of change gears here. I'm going to go to a quarterback real quick. And before I get laughed at off the screen for mentioning this guy's name, a couple years ago, he was actually a top 10 quarterback. He's been in a pretty shitty situation the last 2 years. Hasn't really had much offense around him. When he does have offense around him, they get hurt. And this is Jared Goff. Okay, so I think Detroit is going to have a pretty surprising offense this year. DeAndre Swift stays healthy, he could be a top 10 back. He should be top 10 in PPR for running backs. That he's a pass catcher, he's going to help Goff's numbers. They have Amon-Ra St. Brown. If Jameson Williams can stay healthy, this kid is electric. And he was a guy that I wanted Minnesota to draft, and then Minnesota traded out of that spot to Detroit, and that's who Detroit jumped up to get. TJ Hawkinson is one of the better receiving tight ends in football. They are going to be better if they can keep Jared Goff upright and give him time. I actually think now, again, if you're somebody who waits on quarterback and drafts towards the end and you allow yourself to pick up all your skill positions first, Jared Goff is a guy, I think I have him ranked at like 15 or 16 out of quarterbacks. Like, I'm not sitting here saying he's a top 10 guy right off the bat, but he's somebody.
He wasn't even in my top 20, dude. Like, you can get him. You can almost wait for your very last pick and take a flyer on that.
But I think that in the offense, in the possibility of that offense, the guys that are sitting right above him, if you're not getting the Trey Lances, if you're not getting the guys that are kind of popping right before him, Trey Lance is probably going to go a little bit higher this year, but the Kirk Cousins and all that, I think he has the opportunity to kind of match Kirk, those kind of guys. But Jared Goff, man, I think that if he can kind of rejuvenate his career down there, they obviously play for their head coach. I mean, that's a team that could be, I don't think they're going to be a playoff team, but fantasy wise, they're going to be trailing a lot. He's going to be throwing a lot, and they have a lot of young talent on there. Don't be surprised if he finds himself in the quarterback 10 through 12 conversation.
Oh yeah, they got the homie Amon-Ra St. Brown too down there, so he's got some options to throw to, man. It's that's a good one. I didn't see him coming. Like I said, he's not even in my top 20. So if he could pop, and there are guys out there like me last year in my other league, I streamed the quarterback. So there are guys out there that can wait. And like I said, I started Tua a few times. I started Derek Carr a few times last year. I was that guy that was streaming quarterback, and I ended up getting to a final. So if Jared Goff could be one of those guys, and if you're one of those guys that stream, you happen to hit one, and all of a sudden you got a look good quarterback too to go with your deep lineup, then hey, look out. So that could be a guy. For me, another running back from the New England Patriots. First name I can't think of it.
Ramondre
Ramondre,
Stevenson.
right? Ramondre Stevenson. I think he's gonna be the RB1 down there. I think Damian Harris, I think his name is. He's more of a just between the tackles, run at guy and guy, and those are almost a dying breed in today's NFL. You got to be multiple. You got to be able to do it all, and he's the most complete back on that team. And honestly, they got James White back too, so he's going to be kind of the third down guy. I think that Stevenson is going to take over that starting role. If it's not by week 1, it's going to happen pretty quick, and I think he's going to be a solid fantasy option. You know, Belichick has always liked to run the ball, whether it's back with LeGarrette Blount or even last year with Harris. Scored quite a good, bit of touchdowns when he was in that lead role, but towards the end of the season, you could start to see it last year. This kid, he's just got more ability, man. He's got more. He's slimmed down a little bit. I think this is the year that he takes the lead back role down in New England.
Yeah, I was I'm not gonna say he was a bust last year because he was my number one sleeper. I talked about this kid before last year, and he didn't
The
have the
80.
number one. He didn't have the number one role, and you're absolutely right about him. He is the more talented back out of the two, 100%. There's no doubt in anybody's mind that he's more talented than Damian Harris. The thing about Damian Harris is he does just he runs straight ahead. He'll have those games in bad weather where he'll run for 200 yards, and then all of a sudden you think you have some kind of, saint, and then
3 touchdowns. Yeah.
yeah, then the next week he disappears and he has 27 yards and a fumble. Ramondre Stevenson can catch the ball out of the backfield. You did mention James White. James White will catch some third down snaps. I think Ramondre Stevenson should lead that backfield. I think he should lead it, like you said, very early on in the season. If he doesn't start as the number one back, and then Harris taking the change of pace role from him, and I alluding back to last year, man, I love this kid last year. Damian Harris, when he dealt with injury and Ramondre was a number one back, this dude was a number one back. He was a top 5 to 7, in fantasy per week when Damian Harris was out. So Damian Harris goes down, you have yourself an RB1. Forget RB2 flex. This guy, if something was to happen to Damian Harris, you have a RB1 all day long.
And then ADP is why why I brought him up. I've done some mocks, and he's there later than round 10, and like you said, a potential RB1 later in round 10. So he's a guy you want to roster.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's I love that guy, man. I love that you're going with him. Another running back on my board is Kenneth Walker. So out of Seattle, they're going to run the ball a lot. They've always ran the ball up in Seattle. Weather kind of dictates that kind of offense. Now everybody's heard me talk about Rashad Penny and his meaning behind helping me win championships and stuff like that. But
we'll get to him in a minute.
Rashad. Okay, here's the truth. Here's how I really feel about Rashad Penny. He's always been on a very, very short leash. So if he's not pumping out 100 yards and a touchdown per game like he was in the last 4 weeks of last season, he's going to get pulled. I mean, they drafted this guy in the second round for a reason, and he is a little bit more of a bowling ball. Like, he's a very powerful back. And the other thing about Rashad Penny is he gets hurt a lot. The history of his career is that he gets hurt. The Chris Carson is fully retired. He's fully out of that offense. We don't have to think about that aspect of it anymore. They're going to run multiple backs regardless. So he's going to have a role in that offense. So if Rashad Penny was to go down, Kenneth Walker towards the end of your draft, again, these are guys that you can draft late and stow on your bench that is going to help you win your league, especially if something happens to the back in front of them.
Right. Speaking of that, Nyam Heinz. Jonathan Taylor is the consensus RB1. This guy Heinz, he's a guy you got a roster, and he's going super late. So to me, I feel like he's going to get utilized a little bit more in the offense this year than last year because Matt Ryan, man, as you can tell, I'm high on the Colts. I've been bringing up a breakout, Michael Pittman, a sleeper, 2 sleepers now from the Colts because everyone's high on Jonathan Taylor, and that's about it. But they're a lot more than that this year. I think they're going to win that division, and they might be dangerous in the playoffs. Could they address their defense too? That team is good, man. The offensive line is good. All they've been missing was a quarterback ever since Andrew Luck retired, and Matt Ryan's the best one they've had yet. So for me, I believe in the offense. I think Nyam Heinz is going to get – he's going to be – I always say that James White because he's the first guy that comes to mind because Brady used to hook that dude up out the backfield. But that kind of type, dude. He's going to probably get 5 to 7 targets a game and probably catch 4 or 5 of them. So to me, he's going to be a guy that you can borderline flex almost every week, I feel. So for me, Nyam Heinz, dude, I think he's going to be a guy that is going to be worth rostering.
Yeah, everybody's so high on like Travis Etienne down in Jacksonville. Well, Heinz is kind of a very similar back to that. He is so talented. There's games where he'll have 2 or 3 touchdowns and he does it really quietly too. They're not going to want to use John. If I was Indy, I would not want to run that guy into the ground. And you've seen what happened to, certain running backs that we might bring up here in a second. They got ran into the ground because they were so overly used in the first couple of years of their career. Nyam Heinz would be a great asset to have. I wouldn't even say he's a handcuff, but he's somebody that if you do draft Jonathan Taylor, maybe grab both of them. But he's even a guy that can stand alone and have fantasy value even on his own.
By himself, absolutely. For sure. You don't like he's more than just a handcuff. That's why he's a sleeper for me, for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. My last major sleeper here, I've talked about him again on our tight ends show. His name is Brevin Jordan. And, again, I'm going back down to Houston. I'm not high on Houston. I don't think they're going to have some explosive offense. I do think Brandon Cooks has always been under drafted, but Brevin Jordan. Okay. So this guy, 3 weeks last year, he had 15 points or more in fantasy. And that was, I think, out of like 12 games played. So now that's not astounding numbers. It's not going to sit there and make you jump out of your seat. But the thing about this is he is now the tight end 1. He was basically some guy they would throw in and give a shot at last year. Well, now he's their tight end 1. He's assumed the starting role. They're going to be better because they don't have as many question marks as they did last year. Who was going to be the quarterback going into the year? What was going to happen with Deshaun? All these other question marks. They didn't really have that. Are they still one of the laughing stocks of the league? Yes, they are. But at some point, somebody's going to have to make plays down there. They're going to be trailing a lot. They're going to be throwing a lot. And this kid is actually super, super talented. So I would take a late flyer on somebody like this. If he's your tight end 1, okay, have some expectations. But if he's your tight end 2, I mean, he could definitely bust out. And maybe depending on who your tight end 1 is, take your tight end 1 out of whoever's hands it is.
Oof, that's a deep sleeper. And you're going to segue. I have like a few more names, so I'm just going to end up rattling them off real quick, and then you can go ahead and respond if you need to. Mm-hmm. But we'll get these sleepers out the way real quick. Tight end, mine is David Njoku. To me, Austin Hooper's gone. He's the tight end 1. He just got paid too. Mm-hmm. And when Deshaun gets back, if Deshaun gets back, or even if it's Brissett, who was just throwing to Gesicki a decent amount, like, other than Cooper, who's their next option? It might be him. He's talented. So for me, Njoku, I didn't have him in my top like 15 tight end ranking. So he's a guy you can get super, super late that might be worth a shot. Another one is Kadarius Toney. I think he's going to get utilized really well. And with the new coach, I think the new coach is going to do him wonders. I know you don't like him. He might be on your other list. But Kadarius Toney, I think, is actually going to be pretty good this year. Who else I got? I got Raheem Mostert, I think is going to be the lead back actually down in Miami. And then I got one that just bumped up a little bit more KJ Hamler because of the injury to Cortland Sutton.
Mhm.
So now KJ Hamler might be a Tyler Lockett type connection with Russell Wilson. So those are a few guys. I know I probably listed like 4 of them just now. I even have Devontae Parker on here. I think he's going to be solid for New England. So I got plenty of sleepers. I listed plenty of names for you guys that I would actually feel good about taking. That this is towards the back end of your draft, guys with high upside. That I think Parker could end up taking that wide receiver one role down there because he's a big play guy. They got possession guys. He's a guy that you can throw it out wide to, and they don't really have that. Now they got a guy like that. That's what they drafted that other guy, N'Keal Harry, for. But Parker, dude, he's a jump ball guy. He can go up and make contested catches. He can make big plays. So for me, I think he's on my list too.
Yeah, if I was to pick a New England Patriot wide receiver, which I won't, but if I was to, it'd still be Jacoby Myers. But
so boring though.
It's like yawn fest. Now it's not that I don't like Kadarius Toney. It's the fact that I talked this kid up so high last year, and then he had that Cowboys game. I was like, oh, I told all you should have listened. And then he got hurt, and then he got hurt, and then he got hurt, and then he got hurt.
Brian Daboll, man. Brian Daboll.
Man. I wish you'd have done it last year. He has a good opportunity. I mean, other than Kenny Galladay, I mean, even Evan Ingram's got out of that offense now. So they don't really have very many guys to throw to. Saquon is obviously going to be the lead back there. They like to run the ball down there. But, I mean, he's obviously their most explosive receiver.
Some of the highlights, he only played a handful of games, but man.
That Cowboy game, man. After that game, I was like, see, I had him on my bench. I didn't play him, but – I was like, I told all you. And then I started playing him, and then he started getting hurt, got hurt. But yeah, the one name that I wanted to bring up real quick is, well, there's 2 actually real quick. Chris Olave, you call him Chris Olave, Chris Olave, however you want to pronounce his name. He's going to correct us at some point. This kid there's a reason why I have him on my sleepers list, because his counterpart's going to be on my other side. I think he's the guy to own down there. Do not overdraft his counterpart, and we're going to get to that in a second. This kid is explosive, and he has wide receiver run written all over him. Jameis likes to go down the field. He liked Mike Evans when he was in Tampa. I'm not saying Chris Olave is Mike Evans, but he is built like that. He is going to love this kid, and he is going to look at this kid more than he's going to look at anybody else. Jarvis Landry, Michael Thomas, you name it. Kamara has his stuff going on, and that's another name that we might get into here in a second. But Chris Olave, guys, late in your draft, go ahead. And then going back to the Browns. So when Deshaun comes back, everybody likes to talk about Amari Cooper. And yes, he is more valuable with Deshaun Watson than Jacoby Brissett. Nobody is denying that. But there is a name that needs to be brought up, because Deshaun Watson likes to go deep too. And a name to look out for is Donovan Peoples-Jones. So this guy was a very, very deep threat for, Baker Mayfield. And if Baker Mayfield could find him down the field, Deshaun can find him down the field. Now, this is somebody that you are not going to draft. He is not somebody you're going to take a flyer on. He's not somebody that you're going to pick up in rounds 1 through 5 of this year's free agency. But when Deshaun comes back, if he's healthy and he's part of the offense, he is going to be their deep threat, because Amari is going to be the
possession guy.
Yeah, possession guy was what I was looking for. But DPJ is somebody that you could look for once Deshaun comes back. Do not draft him. Don't waste a roster spot the first 6 weeks of the year, because it's not going to be worth it. But that would be their deep threat. That'd be somebody that might spark later down the year.
Unless they sign Will Fuller, which
that's another.
I thought they were going to do that for a while.
I thought it would be done by now too. Yeah.
Right. I thought that would be done. So he complements Cooper pretty nicely. So I thought that would be done. But yeah, either way, Deshaun takes his shots. So you want a guy on the receiving end. So man, yeah, that's it, man. That's it for the sleepers. Let's get into some busts here. My number one, they're not numbered. I just got a list of busts here, and the reason they're busts for me is ADP. This is what this is all about. Guys you want to get, higher or lower than their average draft position. These guys to me are going too high, period. I see Rashad Penny. I know he's your boy. I know he helped make some money last year, but it's what, year 5, and I think he's had 5 to 10 good games his whole career. I know he finished strong last year, but like you said, they drafted Kenneth Walker, and to me, that's the running back I would much rather have on my roster, even though I don't want any of them on the roster because the Seahawks are probably going to be the worst team in the league, if not one of the worst teams in the league. So for me, I don't want either, but if I had to choose, it'd be Walker, and Walker you can get a lot lower compared to Rashad Penny, who I've seen up next to like Kareem Hunt's name. Like I've seen his name up there by just people might think that he's going to be the starter and getting volume. I don't know what it is. I don't know why they have him up there with where he is, but for me, I'm staying away from that for sure.
So the hype behind Rashad Penny is he was everybody's major league winner last year. He was what won me my league. That's why people are bringing him up so high. Chris Carson is gone now. So obviously you're going to be more comfortable. A lot of people are more comfortable with drafting what they know rather than what could be. That's not really the way to look at fantasy, guys. If you're looking at something that you're going to be really, really safe all year, yeah, you might get into your 4 spot, you might get into the playoffs, but you're not going to win championships by not taking risks. Like BT mentioned, he's going around guys that are like Kareem Hunt. Other guys in that realm of possibility would even be, maybe even like Tony Pollard might be in that realm. And these are guys that I would much rather have because their upside is RB1 upside. Rashad Penny is his ceiling, his best year-long fantasy outlook would be RB2, maybe. He was kind of like Josh Jacobs last year. Like Josh Jacobs last year wasn't going to do anything crazy, but he got you maybe 10 to 15 because of volume, if you're lucky. I don't want to knock Rashad Penny because I love him, but his upside is not where he's being drafted. I could see. I'm not going to call him a bust, but he's maybe being drafted a little too high. He's going to get drafted because of his potential of what he showed last year.
Not by me.
But my bust, and this is something I argue a lot, and I just mentioned his counterpart is Ezekiel Elliott. So a lot of people are talking about how Zeke is in the best shape of his life, and I've been hearing that for 3 years in a row, and he has declined 3 years in a row, or at least 2 years in a row.
I think every year, dude, almost
he's going down. Tony Pollard is as talented, if not more talented, than Ezekiel Elliott, and they are going to want to be an explosive offense. Zeke is his knees he's almost like the next Todd Gurley. His knees are going out, and he's always got back injuries. He's always got banged up. I saw something on Instagram the other day where he had like a little 10-yard, he had shoulder pads on, and he had a little 10-yard like burst through the middle, and he was untouched in the end zone. And everybody's like, oh my God, Zeke is back. Guys, let's calm down on that. First of all, it's training camp. They're not allowed to hit your star players. And number 2, that's more of a testament to the offensive line than it is the running back. Ezekiel Elliott is in my 20s based on name alone. And honestly, there's guys that I would draft above him because I think Tony Pollard is about to have an emergence, and he would be a sleeper for me, but he's not a sleeper. He woke up last year and everybody saw him last year. He'd have been a sleeper last year.
Right.
Ziko Elliott to me is like has bust written all over him, especially when I see him getting drafted in like late 2, early 3. That is way, way too early.
Right. Yeah, I agree. I would not be taking him that early. So based on ADP, it definitely could be. Speaking of ADP, for me, Clyde Edwards-Hilaire, another running back. He can't stay healthy, man. Can you really trust him, especially where he's being drafted? He's being drafted as your RB2 or maybe RB3 potential flex. And for me, I can't trust him in my starting lineup. He's not a guy I'm going to trust to be in my starting lineup. So for me, I'm going every other position first, and then maybe a flyer later on him. But honestly, I mentioned it earlier, I wouldn't be surprised to see a Ronald Jones and Jerick McKinnon backfield, and they're good enough to get it done.
Yeah, Jerick McKinnon, man, obviously wearing the Viking stuff. I mean, he's got a soft place in my heart too, man. I wish that guy well. Injuries derailed early in the career, but he could have been something really special. Yeah, I mean, again, Clyde Edwards Hilaire. I mean, I know he's dealing with injury now too, and if you're already seeing injury, it's
Always.
just he's already dealing with injury in camp, and you got to be really, really careful with things like that because there's talent behind him, and he's losing time and he's losing ground to these guys, and yeah, he's not gonna get as much volume as people think. The other big name I have that people are all excited about, and they're seeing him catch balls and stuff like that in training camp, and is Michael Thomas. It's been 2 years since this guy's really played at his superstar, Pro Bowl level. And everybody calls him Mr. Slant. He's not really a route technician. Like he runs slants. He's not really that great of a deep ball guy. The one thing that he has is he has size. So maybe he can win a jump ball here and there. But the one thing, and I know I'm going to get some flack for this from you, but the one thing his quarterback doesn't have is accuracy. His quarterback likes to go down the field, and, he doesn't really throw those slants very well. So, you're going to talk about last year, how he threw like 14 touchdowns and like 4 interceptions?
No, I'm going to talk about how many times Jameis Winston has had top tier fantasy receivers from Chris Godwin, Mike Evans consistently. He puts them out there, man. He will put it out there, and if dude can box out and get that position, you don't have to be extremely accurate. He's a big dude. He'll grab it, and I trust Jameis's accuracy. He's only getting better. So for me, I totally disagree with you on this one. He's not a bust. He's going to be a guy that is probably going to lead their team in catches. So he's a guy he's the receiver on that team that I would actually want because he's the biggest body and most comparable to Mike Evans. He don't get deep like Mike, but he does all the slants really good.
I'm curious on where it was last year then. I'm curious on seeing where it was last year. He was a complete – I mean, he wasn't even – he might as well not even been there.
Did he play? He didn't play last year, right?
Yeah, he played last year, didn't he? He played a couple of games and have a single touchdown. I think he played like 6 games last year.
If he did, I don't remember it, so shit.
Yeah, exactly. That's my point. That's exactly my point. Like, if he played last year, do you even remember? No, he didn't play 2 years ago. Or maybe I have him reversed, but he hasn't really played in 2 years. He's played 6 games in 2 years, and he's just – guys, that ship has sailed. And he doesn't have Drew Brees as his quarterback. He's not going to throw those. Jameis likes to go down the field. He likes to, if he sees it, he's going to throw it down the field. And that's where I have Chris Olave and even Jarvis Landry. Like, if you're going to have a possession guy, Jarvis Landry to me is a little bit more safer. But I mean, Michael Thomas alone, I mean, I don't know how the influence in that offense is going to be. I don't think that the Saints are going to be that good. They're the one team that I have. Yeah, they're the one team that I have. I mean, their defense is always going to be there. But they're the one team that I have that everybody has high expectations for. We could talk about Alvin Kamara for a second, and now that his ADP, now that there's rumor that he's not going to get suspended, which I completely am livid over. But the fact that he's not going to get suspended, he's still somebody that I think is going to be drafted too high. Now, his talent is obviously crazy when he's there, but he hasn't been in camp. He hasn't been in mini camp. He just hasn't been there. Now, if he's somebody that can walk onto the field and play in that offense, okay. But I still think that he should get suspended at some point this year. In fact, I think he should get suspended for a lot longer than a couple games. I think he should be gone. But that's my personal opinion about him. But yeah, Michael Thomas, man, I mean, 3 years ago, yeah, we were sitting here talking about how he was one of the best in the league. And, it's his attitude and everything about it. I just don't like the guy. And I'm not going to draft him. I'd have to get like a late round draft to even have a chance to draft him. But, seeing him go in like the 4th and 5th rounds, there are so many better receivers out there than Michael Thomas.
Right. All right. Just to wrap up these busts here, and bust is a strong word. It's funny. I actually had Cortland Sutton on here, but not anymore because Tim Patrick got hurt. So Sutton is going to get an increase in volume. I thought it was going to be Patrick, Judy, and maybe some Hamler. And Sutton was actually the guy I seen going first in mocks, which I disagree with. But he's no longer a bust because the volume is going to be there. He's going to get some looks, so he's actually going to be a good, solid player, Cortland Sutton. So he's scratched off my list. I got another one that's not used to being on here though, Tyler Lockett. I think Geno Smith is the quarterback down there, and he looks to DK a lot. So I feel Tyler Lockett, it needed a certain type of quarterback, and Russell Wilson is a rare breed, man. So for me, I think Tyler Lockett, he's still going. Not like he used to go in the drafts, but he's still going up there pretty good just off the name alone. And he's a guy that you're not going to really want to start week in and week out.
Yeah, that offense as it sits right now is a dumpster fire. I mean, even DK, I mean, I would fade him too, especially if Geno's the quarterback. You know,
He had some decent games with Geno
they
last
need
year.
to trade. Yeah, I'll tell you what though. I'll tell you what. They go and they make a trade for Jimmy Garoppolo, like they've been saying. And Seattle all of a sudden has all these weapons. And I mean, Jimmy upgrades them tremendously. I'm surprised that trade hasn't happened now or hasn't happened yet. I mean, there's so many.
By the end of the week.
By the end of the week, I thought he was going to be in Pittsburgh, man. I thought that Pittsburgh fit was really, really good. And there was so
they
many
might
rumors.
want him. Apparently, Trubisky's doing god awful down there. So
yeah,
you never know.
I mean, I've always had my
the whole
about
the Cleveland thing. I heard the Browns might be interested now. But either way, like
as of right now, I wouldn't want any piece of any kind of receiving core in Seattle. DK, Tyler, I would either of them. If I
DK, because I feel like I think DK is going to be solid because the volume is going to be they're going to be losing every game. He's going to get 10 to 15 targets a game probably, and all he's got to do is pop one, dude. And
the one where I'd sit there and say, if you put a gun to my head and you had to force me to, because I wouldn't where he's getting drafted, I wouldn't draft DK. So if you were to put a gun to my head and force me to draft one of those guys, it'd actually be Noah Fant, is who I'd get kind of late in the draft as a tight end. But other than that, I don't want any part of that offense until I can kind of see it. Maybe trade down the line, but no, not in my book. But yeah, I mean, in the last one I have to kind of say, and I know you're really super excited about this, and you know I have to bring it out there, is Julio Jones. So everybody's talking about Julio Jones and you know how he's going to come back to just this grand scheme receiver, and now the Bucs they're already crowning the Bucs champions. That hamstring, man, that hamstring has to hold up before anything happens with Julio. That dude is a walking injury report. So let's hold off. I really like Chris Godwin and I really like Mike Evans. I like both those guys. Chris Godwin, to me, obviously the last 3 years I've been talking about how he's one of the top receivers in the game. Mike Evans has been Mr. Consistency, and now that he's, you know, grown up a little bit, and I think Tom has really helped him grow as a fucking receiver. But they have Russell Gage down there. Everybody's talking about Julio Jones is going to be, you know, he's going to revive his career. That's not what he needs to be down there. And, you know, I like Julio. He's a great player. He's a Hall of Famer, you know, all this kind of stuff. As far as fantasy goes, let's pull the reins back a little bit. Does he help their chances at winning a Super Bowl? Absolutely. You know, but as a fantasy owner, I'm not going up and drafting this guy in the top 10 rounds like I've been seeing in mocks. It's like, what are you guys doing? Is this a joke, or, you know, do you really think that he's going to be your wide receiver 3 on your team or your flex? I think he's going to be 4th in his team in targets, maybe even 5th. Like that's kind of how I feel about it. So before you guys go up and jump and grab Julio Jones, this isn't 2016, 2017 anymore. He does have Tom Brady throwing the ball to him, but Tom loves him some Chris Godwin and Mike Evans. So whatever's left is what goes Julio's way.
Well, yeah. Well, I mean, he loved Antonio Brown before he went a little crazy. So they can spread it around. Gronk was having a good year. 4 guys were having a good year last year, and right now Julio's, to me, slides into the 4th. I'm with you. I think Russell Gage kind of had that 3rd spot on lock. Mike Evans is going to lead the league in touchdown catches. So I think he's obviously wide receiver 1 on the team. Godwin's going to get eased back. So that's why, especially in the red zone, Mike's going to do his thing. Godwin will be back at some point, and then he's going to get rolling. So But there's going to be some games, man, where Julio, and especially if he's healthy, the only thing stopping him is injury. If he's healthy, he's already made some nice ass catches in training camp, dude. If he can stay healthy, if it's a big if, it hasn't happened in 2 years. So, but ADP, I haven't seen him in the 10th round or whatever, but I think I might have got like AB around that range. And I don't think he's going to be what AB was, because AB was averaging like 17 to 20 points a game, honestly. I don't think he's going to be that, but he's going to have a few games where he's going to be a spot start guy. He might be a guy you might not even roster. You know, you might not even be drafting him.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess to that point, he might be a bust, because I probably wouldn't draft. Like, I know I would draft the other three first, you know, and then Julio.
I don't want to throw him in the bust. I don't want to throw him in bust category. I want to pull the reins on the expectations, because you're right. He's not going to be AB from last year. I think that's what people are
He's
expecting.
about to get a Super Bowl, though. He's going to get one of those.
I've seen three mock drafts. I've only done like 4 or 5. I've seen, and out of those 5, and since he got picked up by the Bucs, I've seen 3 of them where he went like in rounds like 10 through 12. Now, if that's where you're taking your flyers, then great. I take my flyers later than that, but if that's where you're taking your flyers, you know, more power to you.
Right.
But there's better flyers out there in my book. I mean, this guy, if it's a big if he can stay healthy. I mean, best case scenario, he's 4th on his team, and even if Mike Evans gets hurt, like, it's not going to affect Julio that much. So if Chris Godwin gets hurt, I mean, it's not going to affect him that much. So the oh, stop that. But
you don't say that.
You don't say that. No, I'm just saying, pull your reins back a little bit. He's not Julio from 2016.
All right, you don't like Julio. We get it. I love Julio. Get you this ring, big homie. My last sleeper, though, real quick, is James Robinson. I think Etienne is going to be the guy. I'm sorry, bust. Good call. My last bust is James Robinson. I'm still seeing him going way too high on ADP. I'd way rather have Etienne, and honestly, he's a guy if you do draft him, you're gonna end up dropping him. So don't even waste your time drafting him. James Robinson is a no-go for me. You got anything else? Anyone else?
No, Travis Etienne, dude. I mean, that's going to be the future of that team. So,
right.
Yeah.
So that's it, man. That's going to be it, you guys. Thanks for sticking with us. We got a mock draft coming up here on Sunday. That's it, though. We got sleepers, we got busts, we got our quarterbacks, we got our running backs, we got our tight ends, we got all of our rankings, we got everything out there. Draft is for us, maybe I think 2.5, 3 weeks away. So we got you guys covered. Stick around. Make sure you subscribe. We got that mock draft coming Sunday, so you're going to see what the real ADP is looking like. Stay tuned.